Names of God from the book of Exodus. God hears groaning, Exodus 2:23. God remembers his covenant, Exodus 2:24. God who understands, Exodus 2:25. The angel of the Lord who appeared to Moses from the bush, Exodus 3:3. The Lord who called Moses from the middle of the bush, Exodus 3:4. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Exodus 3:6. The God who said to Moses, I am who I am, Exodus 3:14. The God who said, I am, Exodus 3:14. The God of Israel, Israel's father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, Exodus 3:15. The God of Hebrews, Exodus 3:18. The God of Israel, Exodus 5:11. The Lord who looks upon and judge, Exodus 5:21. Jehovah, Exodus 6:3. Yahweh who redeems with his outstretched arm and great abundant judgments, Exodus 6:6. The one who says, I am the Lord, Exodus 6:6. Jehovah God who brings you out of the bondage, God who brings you out from the under the burden of Egyptians, the incompatible God, the incomparable God, 8:10. The Lord who did according to the word of Moses, Exodus 8:13. The Lord who says, there is none like me in all the earth, 9:14. Righteous God, Exodus 9:27. The Lord who executes judgments against all the gods of Egypt, Exodus 12:12. The Lord who passed through to drive down the Egyptians, Exodus 12:12. The Lord who brought the Israelites out of the strength of his hand, Exodus 13:3. Yahweh who went before Israelites by day in the pillar of cloud, Exodus 13:21. Yahweh who went before Israel by night in the pillar of fire, Exodus 13:22. The Lord who fights, Exodus 14:14. The Lord who said, the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, 14:18. Yahweh who looked down through the pillar of fire and of cloud and confused the Egyptian army, Exodus 14:24. Yahweh who threw the Egyptians in the middle of the sea, Exodus 14:27. Yahweh who saved Israel out of the hand of Egyptians, Exodus 14:30. The Lord who did great work upon the Egyptians, Exodus 14:31. Yahweh who has triumphed gloriously, Exodus 15:1. Yahweh who has thrown the horse and has rider into the sea, 15:1. My strength and song, Exodus 15:1. My salvation, Exodus 15:1. The God, my God, Exodus 15:2. The Father's God, my Father's God, Exodus 15:2. Man of war, Exodus 15:3. Yahweh in his name, Yahweh is his name. Exodus 15:3. Yahweh whose right hand is glorious in power. Exodus 15:6. Yahweh whose right hand dashes the enemy in pieces. Exodus 15:6. The Lord who is great in excellency. Exodus 15:7. The Lord who overthrew those who rise up against him. Exodus 15:7. Yahweh who is incomparable. Exodus 15:11. Yahweh who is glorious in holiness, Exodus 15:11. Yahweh who is fearful in praises, Exodus 15:11. Yahweh who does wonders, Exodus 15:11. Yahweh who reigns forever and ever, Exodus 15:18. Yahweh who triumphed gloriously, Exodus 15:21. Yahweh who has thrown the horse and the rider into the sea, Exodus 15:21. Yahweh who healer, Jehovah Rapha, Yahweh Rufeka, Exodus 15:16. The Lord is my banner, Jehovah Nissi, 17:15. Yahweh who has delivered his people out of the hand of the Egyptians, Exodus 18:10. Yahweh who is greater than all gods, Exodus 18:11. Jealous God, Elkanah, Exodus 25. The Lord who visits the iniquity of the fathers on the children, Exodus 25. The Lord who shows loving kindness to thousand generations, Exodus 26. Jehovah Mekodesh came, the Lord who sanctified, Exodus 31 13. Yahweh, a merciful and gracious God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth, Exodus 34 6. The Lord who forgives iniquity and disobedience and sin, Exodus 34 7. The Lord who visits the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation, Exodus 34 7.